Coming up on 11 minutes after 7 o'clock here on Sky 99.5 FM. And we've had a pretty interesting weekend in which we learned a couple things about national security matters. The police commissioner talking about an improved performance by the police service when it comes to detecting crime and keeping certain kinds of crimes down, and also getting on top of the issue of illegal arms coming into the country and so on and so forth. And, you know, he was reading out his report card and feeling good about it. But the question is, should he feel good about his report card? Because things seem to have been getting worse. It's public perception, and there may be some stats to prove it. Since he's been at the helm, to put this and some other things in perspective for us, we've got on the line with us member of the Police Service Commission and attorney at law, Martin George. Good morning to you, Martin George.
Hi, good morning to you, Jesse.
Morning, Mr. George.
Dr. Wayne, and good morning, Edison, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, Dr. Wayne. Dr. Wayne is out on assignment today, so it's just me and Mr. Carr in the studio.
Okay.
Yes, so the police commissioner sort of read out his report card over the weekend at that special awards function. What do you think, though? What do you think of his report?
Well, Jesse, I've always said, and I mean, this is a point I've made to the commissioner, both in my official capacity and also privately in a personal capacity. I've indicated to him that to the average member of the public, the statistics mean nothing if people do not feel that sense of safety and security as they go about their business and in their daily lives. If you don't feel that and you don't have that sense where you can relax and be comfortable going about your daily business, or relax in your home and know that you're relatively free from a home invasion or anything of the sort, then seeing the statistics being read out on television or hearing it on the radio, that means nothing to you, particularly if you know that, look, you have been or are likely to be the victim of some crime or criminal activity. So the thing is, you see, we need to go beyond the mere statistics, because I'll tell you, I mean, anybody who has done, just the basic year one statistics, you know that you can always manipulate statistics in any which way possible to skew them to produce whatever results. And we're not at all suggesting that that's the case, but what I'm saying is that the public views statistics with that level of skepticism. So therefore, they may say, well, okay, yes, that sounds good for you. But last week, they may say, well, look, my neighbor was robbed, my sister was, taken at gunpoint, somebody's car was stolen, that kind of thing. So these are the statistics, actually, that mean more to members of the public than just hearing something being read out by, the police officials on television or in the media. So we need to bring it closer to home in terms of what is the reality that is impacting upon the average citizen on a daily basis. And I'll tell you something, Jesse, there's another part of the statistics that we would need to call upon the commissioner and the police service in general to try and pay attention to. What about the fact that there are so many crimes which go on a daily basis in Trinidad and Tobago which are not even reported because people either they have fear of the police service, or they have no trust in the police service, or they feel frustrated, they feel, look, it's a waste of time, that kind of thing. So therefore, you may have many more scenarios occurring than what the police are recording. So therefore, they now need to embark on a campaign to try and encourage that level of trust. And I mean, in fairness to Commissioner Williams, he has done a lot of good in that regard, but what we're saying is that there's much more that needs to be done, because I know of circumstances where persons have told me, look, such and such happened to me or happened to my neighbor, but they didn't bother to report it because they felt it was a waste of time. How then do you move these people to that scenario where they feel that level of comfort, where they can say, well, yes, I'm comfortable to be able to report this matter because I know that I will get results. I mean, just last week I had a scenario where on behalf of a client, we were trying to contact the Arima police station, because the client was in an emergency situation. And we called the numbers for the Arima police station repeatedly.
Nobody answers.
Either the numbers were ringing, and then on other occasions, you got busy tones. So, I mean, the point is, you talking about this is it's a big police station, so therefore you recognize now when a member of the public in an emergency situation gets that kind of response, then it's really something that will shake their confidence to the core. Then, furthermore, the person was advised to call E999, and I mean, the unconfirmed report I have from the situation was that when calling E999, the lady was told that they had no vehicles. And I mean, again, this is something that I think ought to be investigated. It may be that maybe she got the information wrong. I always like to be fair to everybody. But if it is that her information is accurate, then that's absurd. How could your emergency response service tell you that they have no vehicles?
These statements, Mr. George, that the commissioner makes all the time and so on, puts his credibility at stake. I mean, and how does he define serious crimes? Besides murders, aren't burglaries and assaults, aren't kidnappings, aren't child abuse serious crimes?
This is the point. You see, so that's
how does he define crime? Serious.
It's easy to play games with the numbers, and you produce a report that makes you look good on paper. But the reality is that means nothing to the average citizen. I mean, I have lots of clients, Jessime, who tell me, they say, listen, whenever they are out of Trinidad, when they're traveling abroad, they feel so relaxed. They could lie late in the night. They could go out. They could have, a good time. And they're telling me, they say they don't feel safe to do that in Trinidad, which is ridiculous. How could this be our home, our country, the place that we love? And, you're afraid to go out with friends and family late nights, to go to a restaurant, to, go take in a play, a movie, whatever, and feel that sense of safety and security that, look, I can go, I can relax, and I can come home and nothing will happen. That's the level of safety and security people need to feel.
Many years ago,
to move beyond the numbers.
Many years ago, the Calypsonian penguin, Sadly Joseph, I believe his correct name is, sang a song, "We're Living in Jail," and it was quite prophetic almost what he sang in that, because that's how we're living now. We have basically cut into our civil liberties in order to take care of our security as citizens.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, the point is, I could tell you, Jessime, I mean, unfortunately, the same applies to me in the sense that if ever I'm abroad, you feel a much greater sense of freedom and relaxation. Not that, something can't happen. But
yes.
For sure, in most civilized countries, there is a good response. So if you call the emergency services, whether it is hospital, fire, ambulance, police, whatever, then they respond. They have that capacity and capability. And then furthermore than that, they investigate. I have a client who had a matter in the UK, and she was dealing with the London Metropolitan Police. And she explained to me the process, and I was blown away. She said those people, they called her repeatedly with updates. Every time something happened, they offered her therapy, they offered her, counseling. Then they called to find out if she has enough money to be able to get back home to Trinidad and stuff. And she was like, wow, this is the police service, because they moved beyond just the numbers game of, rattling out statistics. Now, the point is, you can't report that in your statistics to say, well, look, we exhibited care and concern for this citizen. There's no statistic to measure that. But the point is, as a member of the public, she has so much confidence in their police service now that, she feels comfortable that, look, if anything happens, these people, they respond in a responsive and responsible manner. And I think that's where we need to move ourselves to. It's not that we've not made progress. We must give Commissioner Williams credit for the progress he's made, but we must not spend too much time patting ourselves on the back and thinking, we have reached. We have not reached at all. We have made improvements. There's a lot more to be done.
But what more can be done? I mean, what else is there to be done? And is he the person to do it? What's going on in terms of that process to select someone else to sit in that particular captain's chair?
Well, as you're aware, a High Court action was filed by some members of the opposition challenging the legislation whereby the legal notices 218 of 2015 and 219 of 2015, which gave us basically the power to move ahead with the process of appointing a commissioner. That matter is currently before the court. Mr. Russell Martineau, senior counsel, is looking after the interests of the Police Service Commission in that regard. So it's a matter whereby you're caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of you want to move forward with the process, but then of course you still have to respect the court process while the matter is there. But whatever can be done otherwise in terms of at least putting things in place, we are trying to do that. However, we are very respectful of the fact that there is a court matter, and we therefore must not do anything to jeopardize either side's position in the matter, because we are not a party to the matter in an antagonistic way. We are simply there at the invitation of the courts to assist with whatever information the court requires, in terms of resolving the issue. But we try not to get embroiled in these matters, as parties as much as possible. We try to avoid that. But the point is we have to assist in terms of the information that the court may require to resolve the matter.
Logistically, however, court matter notwithstanding, is there anything that you could be doing in the meantime to prepare yourself once the outcome of the court matter takes place?
Right. Well, this is what I'm saying. In the background, we are doing those things, because you would have these things such as your RFPs and those issues, which you would require anyhow. In other words, either which way it goes. These are things that you would require to prepare in terms of, getting the firms in to be able to prepare their documents to send out the invitations for candidates to submit their resumes, that kind of thing. So this is something you would require anyhow, either which way, whether it's under the old system or under this new amended system. So these are things that we can safely go ahead and continue doing in the background because it doesn't impinge on the court matter in any way. But as I say, of course, we do what we could, but still, of course, being very respectful to the court process and procedure.
Okay.
Looking back at the criminal activity, Mr. George, the spate of criminal activity, crimes and killings and so on, what happens is that, the reports always say it's seemingly a motiveless crime. But then sometimes you hear of people being shot and so on, and you hear the word pest being brought up. Do you think that there's a lot of vigilante action that the police, by ignoring it, is encouraging it because they feel that, they are seemingly powerless?
Well, the thing is, I'm not sure I would want to describe it as vigilante action. I would think that it's more in the nature of reprisals. I think that's what we see in Trinidad and Tobago, So the thing is, and it's of course linked to the gang culture and the turf culture. So therefore, you may have somebody from some area and, because that person is killed, then his supporters or friends or soldiers, so to speak, then they feel, well, look, it was done by the people in that other group, so therefore they must take out somebody from that. So I think it's more in the nature of reprisals and counter-reprisals that we've been seeing. Now, my point is that, look, if it is that we heard some years ago a Minister of National Security list the number of gangs and, he was able to say, there are so many known gangs. Then my point is that if we know this, then you must know the individual.
Yes, indeed.
Then there must be some active undercover work being done. That's part of our problem. There's not much, if any, undercover work being done in Trinidad and Tobago.
That's a complaint that we keep hearing from Gary Griffith all the time. He says it. There's no working smart at all.
This is the point. So the thing is, what we have is a police service that is reactive largely to these gang issues rather than being proactive. So in other words, you are supposed to go out there and you're supposed to have, your young recruits, young police officers, and you say, well, look, immediately you are not going to be in uniform. You're going to be plain clothes right through. We're going to introduce you, infiltrate you into this area. So you know there, you are able to gather information and be able to feed us back. This is what we need, because without that information, because you realize the normal members of the public are usually reluctant to give that information to the police. You have scenarios where there are many witnesses, a killing occurred, and not one person comes to the police to give information. So therefore, you as the police service, you have to be a bit more proactive and say, well, look, maybe I need to infiltrate these communities a bit more, send out some undercover officers, have them living there in those communities or whatever, or visiting them regularly, so that they are now able to get that information and feed it back to headquarters, so that we can now know, well, okay, look, this is being planned, we can go and stop it. That's how you be proactive. But I don't think there's much undercover policing going on in Trinidad and Tobago at all. Everybody wants to sit in a nice air-conditioned office with cable TV, and they're ordering KFC and Pizza Hut.
Is it that, Martin George, or is it that they think because the country is so small that they won't be able to successfully carry out any sort of sting, undercover sting?
I could tell you. I remember the days of when you had Inspector Seeley, big red guy. I mean, he used to do a lot of undercover work, and very successfully too, because the point is he was a dedicated officer. Listen, let me tell you, you can do it. It's not impossible at all. It's not impossible, And, I mean, you're talking about a nation of 1.3 million people. It's not impossible for you to get persons who can go in there and start doing some undercover work. If you just throw your hands up in the air and say, well, it can't be done, then we'll never get it done. I recall when I was, I spent some time working with my friend, just visiting him in the Toronto Police Service. And he said even within their service, they have so many undercover officers right there in the police headquarters who are there, they're posing as civilians, doing civilian jobs. They might be like a cleaner, a maid, whatever. But the point is they are undercover.
And they have never been in uniform.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
never
the
been in
point.
uniform.
So they've never been in uniform. So you might have somebody serving you coffee in your office, and the person is very diligent, dedicated, whatever. That person could be, and this is what he tells me. He said that is what helps to keep their police officers straight, because they themselves don't know who are the persons from the internal affairs unit who are there in the headquarters undercover.
Would it be overstating
an essential part of it?
Would it be overstating it, Martin George, to think that maybe some of the people that we might be sympathetic to in terms of refugees and so on, let's say from Venezuela and so on, could perhaps be criminals masquerading as refugees coming into the country? Would that be overstating it?
Well, the point is, I'm not sure that they're masquerading as refugees. They're just criminals, basically, those who come with that intent. In other words, let me tell you, if you are of criminal bent and criminal mind, then wherever they place you in the world,
you will be criminal.
You are going to start to think and function, if you understand me. And you could be a refugee and have absolutely no criminal intent whatsoever. So therefore, it's a situation where we now must have a greater level of scrutiny. In terms of, we know some of the known ports where they come in. Then what we need to do is ensure that we have an effective tracking and monitoring system. In other words, we're supposed to have an active database on our computer and say, well, okay, look, all right, 50 people came in, we have all the names, we have where their home addresses are, that kind of thing. And we flag the dates that they're supposed to return. So therefore, you're supposed to be able to check the deported seizures. I don't know if they have the sophistication of, proper communication systems and, internet and wireless networks. But the point is, you're supposed to put those things in place so that you check and see, well, okay, have they left there? Have they left through the airport? Have they? So once you check your data, then you realize, but wait, these people have gone AWOL. Then now, you can now put out some kind of alert and say, hey, listen, we need to keep our eye out for this Martinez or Jose or, that kind of thing. So therefore, well, look, this might be a possible risk. So that's the way you do smart policing. But
the thing is, how can they verify you? Somebody comes from Venezuela and so on. Well, we lived at this street and this is my family and so on. How can they verify this here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the point is there would, of course, be the sharing of information with the Venezuelan police officials and authorities. That's not uncommon or, something that is difficult to achieve. You must be able to share information at that level, because even if you have to go through Interpol, that's the whole idea of it, so that you are not working in isolation when you are talking about cross-border situations. So I don't think the information sharing is so much of an issue. I think what we need to do is ensure that internally within the border of Trinidad and Tobago, that we gather and monitor that information so that we are able to make accurate and timely predictions in terms of movements of people and what is likely or not likely to happen.
But should we permit it?
Well,
The flood. I speak about the flood of people coming from Venezuela.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you have two aspects to it. First of all, you have the humanitarian aspect, which, I mean, I would always say you try to help people as much as possible.
Because if the situation were reversed, we certainly would want someone to be kind to us.
Point. Yes, and what I'm saying also, Edison, there's the legal aspect. If the people are coming legitimately as visitors, they come in with they have proper passports, they have their proper documentation, then what's your basis for denying them? You don't really have a legal basis, you know. So, it's the ones who are coming illegally. Then you can say, well, look, I'm going to try to clamp down on those, you know. But, I mean, if you are talking about people coming legitimately, they're going through the port, they're being processed through immigration, then what really is your basis for denying them? You know, so...
we have a caller who just wants to get a question in very quickly. Hello, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, go ahead quickly, please.
Yes, to Mr. Martinez there. A very intelligent man, but, all of it he's saying there about the undercover in Trinidad. Mr. Martinez, when Eric William was operating, he had his own undercover. These men in Laventille had his personal number. They used to contact him. And to have vigilantes and personal... You there?
Yeah, he's listening.
He's listening. Go ahead.
Yes. To have vigilante and personal. There's something that you have to insulate. And with your knowledge, why not you get into that and direct this, the governments, the last government was the same thing, and see what best you can do, because we need that kind of undercover there. And one, before I go quick, is that the standard of the police now coming in with a degree. You don't expect these police to work. They have a conditioned car. When we was police, we had old van and all sort of things. So these police and they wouldn't operate.
Okay, let's squeeze in another call before we let Martin George respond. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Very good.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Good morning. Mr. Judge, you kept using the word dedicated, but the dedication seems to be non-existent nowadays in almost every field of work. Thank you.
Okay. Martin George, your comments, your thoughts?
Yes, all right. In terms of the first caller, I thank him for his comments. And in terms of what he is saying, yes, I agree, and I do make these recommendations from time to time. I mean, even on this program, I try to do so. I try to make public comments, but the point is, it's something that we need to take to a national level so that we have a national discourse on it, and the police service recognizes that, look, this is something that the public is crying out for, and they would make the adjustment accordingly. But I will take his comment on board, and I will again make it official. I will raise it officially with the commissioner the next opportunity I get. And in terms of the second caller, I agree with him in terms of the dedication, and I will just draw reference to what we saw last week. I was particularly and utterly disappointed to note that you had officers who are charged with the responsibility of guarding the Prime Minister coming out publicly and complaining like that. That I thought to be a disgrace, with the greatest of respect. Regardless of whatever your peeve, your gripe, you deal with that internally. To come out to the media and to be complaining that you're overworked and underpaid, I thought that disgraceful. In fact, I would think that in itself poses a security risk to the Prime Minister, because then I wouldn't want, if I were in his position, I wouldn't want persons who are, grumbling and mumbling and, complaining like that around me, guarding me, because then that means that you are not focused and dedicated to the job. And that's what the second caller just mentioned.
Yes.
It comes down to the question of dedication. I mean, the point is, if we think back to, some of our old school teachers, principals, etc., these were persons who, they didn't do it for the money or to say that...
It was a vocation. It was a vocation.
That's right.
And the thing is, when you're doing that kind of job, that's what that kind of job calls
and
for.
You know what it entails. So therefore, don't be grumbling and mumbling like that. I mean, of course, if you have legitimate concerns, then of course raise it through the proper channels, and then adjustments can be made. But I was particularly annoyed to see that type of behavior. And I told myself, I said, he was very right. The Prime Minister was very right. If it is that they then change the person's guarding him and said, look, let's bring in other people, because then that creates a security risk. Because you are saying, basically, I am demotivated to work, I am feeling overworked, overburdened, overstressed, then you could not be alert and efficient in guarding me.
I wonder,
And
Mr.
that's a
George,
concern.
how much looming elections has to do with this situation. It was
Well,
raised by
it
the
may
association.
very well be, Edison. You are quite perceptive in that regard, and it may very well be. But the thing is, you see, these officers then have to recognize that they ought not to allow themselves to be used as tools or pawns in somebody's bigger chess game. They need to understand that and see the bigger picture.
Martin George, we're going to leave it there for now, but thank you for giving us some of your time this morning. And we'll
Always
be
a
touching
pleasure,
base
Jesse. Thank
again
you.
soon with you.
Okay, and thanks to Edison also.
All right. We've been speaking with attorney at law and member of the Police Service Commission, Martin George, looking at some key issues impacting national security here in Trinidad and Tobago. Keep it here on Sky.
Don't touch a button. We'll be right back with more on Sky 99.